It is a truth universally acknowledged that the first semester of grad school will always be the worst semester.
Will remain over mainly rural areas of southwestern Brevard and northeastern Osceola counties.
Alexa, what time is it?
It's 9:15 a.m.
I am so ready to stop living through unprecedented historical events. If you're new here, my name is Issa and I'm a disabled writer and advocate. I took a 2-year break before starting my PhD. I'm in my first semester of my PhD program, studying communication studies with a focus on disability, culture, and identity. On this channel, I just share my journey and some of the things that I've learned along the way. So the first quarter of the semester was just insane. My grandma was having health issues, my service dog was having a relapse in training, and I had to hire a new trainer. I had a full neuropsych evaluation to see what's going on with my memory issues, which is really intimidating when you're in a graduate program where your memory is very, very important. And then there was just other like personal, trying to learn how to teach again and do all of these other things, and it was just really stressful. And as soon as all of that stress started to die down, then we had the first hurricane. I'm living in the Tampa area, which means that this past month has just been all hurricane. I've lived in Florida for the last 2 years, and like we've had some things, but I've been in the Orlando area. This is a lot. So we had Helene, which shut down school for half a week, and thankfully we did not lose power. We decided to stay at the apartment because we're not a flood zone, we're not an evacuation zone, we're very inland. So we decided to just shelter in place, don't go anywhere, don't block up the roads, and we had all of the supplies ready to go if we lost power. And we figured if we lost power, it would only be for like a day, maybe a couple of days, which I've been without power for a couple of days because of a hurricane when I was living in Orlando. It sucks, it's not the end of the world. Milton was scary because Tampa is known for having this like protective bubble over it, that there's no direct hurricanes that hit Tampa. We were pretty directly hit by Milton, and that shut down school for an entire week where we just didn't have classes. And then the second week we were in like this weird asynchronous system. Some classes had online classes, but really the online classes that I went to were just like, how are you doing? Do you need anything? Just making sure that everyone had resources. And that was on a Wednesday, and people had just started getting power back. So they were without power for about a week. We were very lucky. I keep thinking about how lucky we were because I evacuated to Orlando, didn't lose power there, checked in on my family house because we stayed with my mom and her boyfriend. That was a little bit out of the way, and our house is a little bit weirder in the grid, so it's more likely to lose power. We've lost power a couple of times for a couple of hours to a couple of days. So we went and checked in the house. The house had power. Where we were staying had power. When my roommate got back to our apartment, because I stayed for the week, our apartment had power. So we were just very, very, very lucky. But I have friends who were out of power for the entire week, and that was in Orlando and in Tampa area. It's just devastating to see some of the destruction. And I haven't even been to St. Pete, where some of the worst destruction is. And also hearing the stories of people who are struggling to feed their kids, who lost all of their food, who have all of these things that happened. That's just, I feel disrupted. I feel dysregulated, and nothing even happened to me. I've lived through a house fire in my junior year of college. We had a major house fire, and I wasn't in the house when we had the fire, but it displaced us for 6 months, and just trying to recover from losing so much. And we didn't lose everything. We moved back into the house, and I was very lucky compared to my sister, who pretty much lost everything. Anything in my mom's room was more likely than not destroyed, with a few exceptions. But having that experience, I know just how much difficulty there is in trying to recover from losing everything. And someone who has a disability, who has invested a lot in tools that may not seem like accessibility tools, but are my desk at home, my shower chair, the handles. Like if you have flooding from a hurricane, you have to get rid of anything that was touched by the flood. And I didn't think that we'd get flooding, but there's just this part of me that was worried because there were some fires that were happening because of lithium ion batteries mostly. But there's just this part of me that's like, oh, we're gonna have a fire and we're gonna lose everything, or something's gonna fly through the window and we're gonna lose everything. And I am not equipped to deal with that. And then I felt so guilty coming back and not having had experienced that and know people who have experienced destruction on some level and being so close to it. And when you work with so many students and their families are affected and they're saying like, hey, I can't be in class because I have to go help, or, you know, different things. People are doing Zoom classes, like just all of this stuff. It's just all backflashes to the fire for me and backflashes to COVID. And then you have social media, which is like dismissing people's lives and calling people stupid for staying in the homes that they have to try to protect them. There's no empathy or understanding for just how terrifying this last hurricane was for Tampa people. I grew up in Texas with family who was from the Midwest, who grew up in Tornado Alley, and I am very familiar with tornadoes and the damage that a tornado can do. But the difference is, like, a tornado you prepare for the best you can. You have your plan of action in the point of emergency, but you likely will not get a lot of warning. Like, you have an idea that there's capacities for tornado, it's tornado season, but you have to respond in the moment at any given time. But for a hurricane, you are watching the trajectory of a storm that will hit. And meteorologists are trying the best they can to get that knowledge of where it will hit, how it will hit, down to an exact science. And that is very difficult. But you're watching the storm that is up to a Category 5, which is what happened with Milton, is that while it was in the Gulf of Mexico, it was a Category 5, and it's on its way. And the meteorologists are saying that stuff will happen that will hopefully bring it down to a Category 3, which is not good, but it is a lot more survivable than what they were projecting if it didn't. The devastation of a Category 5 Tampa is not prepared for. Tampa does not have the resources to handle that. I'm very lucky that I work at a school that gave us so much time to prepare for the hurricane and to come back from the hurricane. But a lot of places, a lot of jobs, a lot of companies don't do that. And they just expect you to work like normal, as if you are not watching a climate disaster actively unfold. Anyway, I didn't expect to be documenting that part of life, living in a place that is so actively affected by climate change and climate disasters. There's a little part of my brain that's like a little worried that I will have a school to graduate from at the end of the 4 years. We'll find out. Anyway, besides all of the stress, I am very thankful for this university. I'm so excited to be here. I love the faculty. I love what we're learning. I'm being taught to think in ways that I have not been ever introduced to before, and it just feels right. And I'm getting pushed to think in new ways, which is challenging and scary and difficult, but at the same time, just exactly what I wanted from a PhD program. And they have been so kind, just genuinely some of the kindest people I've ever met in my life. Before the semester even started, the chair went out of his way to make sure that I had absolutely everything I needed and I could get access to all the parts of school, including this awesome desk, which is a standing desk, but it adjusts. So like, okay, this is the level that, and it technically, yeah, about right here. So this is the level that my office mate's desk would be. So if I had a normal desk, it would be like this. So my knees are here, the desk is here, and that is not very comfy, and I'd have to lean over to do work like this. Instead, I can lift it up like this. And I'd like to do it a little bit higher. Have my arms resting while I'm typing, and then also what I really like about it is I'll make it super high, and then there's the plug under here, and I can reach the plug, which is usually very difficult. In a lot of the communication studies world, in my experience in my master's program, especially my undergrad, I got to study disability, but it was communication is what the class is studying, and then I could focus in on disability if I wanted to, which is great, but it also means that there's just not a lot of guidance, I guess. It also means that in all of our readings, I had to translate, okay, what does this mean for me and my research? What does this mean for the disability community? How is this true? How is this different? And I've done a lot of critiques of the work in my master's program that were, this is exclusionary of people with disabilities, and considering just how disability affects all of us, and ideas of ability affects all of us, it's very, very limiting, and it's hurting research overall. But here, disability is mentioned regularly by non-disabled professors. This university, disability is being mentioned regularly as part of critical, which is looking at power elements and looking at marginalized communities. It's recognized as a marginalized community. It's recognized as a community, which is one of the hardest things to get across to people, and it's one of my biggest passions, is just the emphasis and to emphasize how important disability community is to study. So it's just, I'm very, very excited and very happy to be here. Of course, there's a level of like trying to make connections with people and going into a new place that's really intimidating, and there's this part of my brain that's just not being kind to me about it. All of these like graduate student events and activities, and I just want to stay home, especially since my service dog has been pulled from all public access for the moment as we try to get her skills back up to where they need to be in public access. And so every time I'm not home, she's in her kennel, and I want to make sure she's not in her kennel all day. I added my own physical exhaustion and just fatigue, and it's like, I promise I'm not antisocial, I'm just tired. And I am, I guess, maybe a little bit antisocial. Like this week at home, I didn't want to come back. Anyway, that's the mid-semester updates. I'm hoping to post more frequently. It is very, very important to me. This YouTube channel is very important to me. Presentation next week, I'm talking about cripistemology, which is breaking down known knowledge from the perspective of disability and looking and recognizing the knowledge of disabled experience and people. I hope to honor that in this channel more than anything else, that this is an opportunity for me to connect and share my story and show, you know, the challenges and the joys of grad school as someone with a disability, and hold myself accountable to being the person that I want to be and that I write about wanting to be in my work. A couple video ideas coming up that I'm excited to talk about, but if you have any suggestions or questions that you would like me to talk about, please comment them down below. If you like this type of content, if you want me to do more vlogging or things like that, let me know. Please join this journey with me and help me keep accountable and achieve these goals. I love you, and I'll see you soon.